Hey everyone, I'm back again and very grateful to have you listening into today's message. Today I have a really interesting one for you guys, which I hope will give you the perspective that it's given me in terms of our relationships in particular, and particularly when it comes to what we need in relationships, because a lot of the time we can discount what we actually want and need in our relationships and put the label on ourselves that maybe we're too needy, or whatever that kind of concept is that we kind of label ourselves with, which disconnects us from what we having our needs fulfilled in our relationships. All right, so let's dive into it. So what I want to share with you guys today is the 13 universal needs that don't make you needy. They actually make you human. All right, so this is going to be a really, really powerful one. And I want to unpack a little bit about what these 13 universal needs are and how you can use your awareness of what they are to ensure that you're creating amazing connections around you, right? And it's not at the sacrifice of what you need as a human being. It actually kind of gives you permission to be human. And also you can see where maybe, you're not actually being the best partner or the best friend or the best, person in your family that you can be in terms of creating real depth of connection with the people that you love and care about. All right, so let's dive into it, and I'd love for you guys to drop me some comments along the journey, ask any questions. If any of these particular needs really resonate with you and you think, oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely, that is me, that's what's missing, then drop me a comment, let me know, let's play along, and always let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. So I always appreciate knowing where in the world we are, particularly during this crazy pandemic time where we're kind of, we're in lockdown in our own homes, and travel is kind of off the agenda for a little while. So it's nice to know that we can still stay connected on this realm. So let's dive in. I want to start with the first universal need. Now, when I talk about universal needs, what I'm saying is every single one of us, just purely from being a human being, we all share these same needs. Now, you're going to have a different hierarchy of needs than the next person to you. So you and maybe your partner or the people around you might have, you've got all of these needs that I'm going to share, but there's going to be 1, 2, or 3 where you really, they're absolutely key for you, and they're often going to be different, right, for the next person. So we've all heard about, the love languages, for instance, and with those 5 different love languages, we usually give love in the way that we most receive it. The same is true for these universal needs. We usually have priorities in these universal needs, and we tend to discount some of the other ones. And so that's how we end up showing up in our lives. But if you're giving and trying to meet the needs of others in the way that you most receive these needs, it can create some challenges, because that person that you're trying to meet the needs of, they might have a very different hierarchy to you. So it might meet some of their needs, but not maybe the less important needs, and that's where they can feel like this sense of something missing in the dynamic. All right, so bear that in mind. Let's start. So the first of the universal human needs is the need to feel safe. The need to feel safe and secure. We don't have our life in threat. It's not just on a physical plane, but it's also safety emotionally, that we can feel safe enough to be who we are, and express the truth of who we are. All right. So safety also comes into, the security, the basic survival needs as well. All right. So the need to feel safe, number 1. Number 2, we all have a need for physical touch, for connection, to be able to just touch somebody, to be able to have our needs met on a physical plane. We all, as human beings, have that as a universal need. So universal need number 2, to have physical touch. The third of the universal needs is to be loved. All right, so we all have a need to feel loved by another person. All right, so that is absolutely just for being a human. You need to feel like you are loved in order to get that particular need met. Then we have our fourth of the universal needs, which is the need to be spontaneous, not so pre-planned with everything that we have to do, but the need to be, more spontaneous and curious at heart, to be able to just go with the flow and see what comes up and kind of be in that present moment. All right, so that is the next one. All right, then we have, what are we up to? Number 5 of the universal needs is the need to be acknowledged. All right, to be acknowledged as a human being, not to just be an insignificant wallflower that nobody ever notices, right? To be acknowledged as the person that you are. All right, then we have number 6, the need to be validated. All right, so the need to be validated in terms of how are you feeling? What are you expressing? What's your way of seeing the world? We all have a need to be validated for what is true for us, even if, the person validating us doesn't see things the way that we see them. We can still validate people, and that's absolutely a human need that we all need met for ourselves, all right? The need to be accepted is the 7th of the universal needs. To be accepted just as we are, not having to do or be any other way, just to be accepted as we are, our authentic selves. All right. The next universal human need is to be enough, just to be enough as we are. Not, just, that is basically driven by one of the universal fears, which is not being good enough. Every single human being has some sort of version of not being good enough, usually a multitude of not good enoughs within ourselves. And so we absolutely need the need met of just feeling as though we are enough as we are. The next one is the universal need to be heard, to be listened to, but not just somebody heard your words, they heard your soul, they heard who you are, they heard what you're expressing, and really took that on board with presence, all right? We all have that universal need. The next one is the universal need to be protected, okay? To know that other people have our backs, that, if something happens, that we will be protected, okay? Nearly at the end, coming up to the next universal human need, to be vulnerable, to be able to be open, to share our challenges, our wounds, our perceived weaknesses, the truth of our heart and our soul, to be vulnerable, to be open. The next universal need is to have stability, right? So although we have that need to be spontaneous and go with the flow, we also need stability in our lives, okay? And the final of the 13 universal human needs is the need to know that we matter. All right, that we matter, that our lives matter, that we as an individual is important, and that we do matter. All right, so why I wanted to share those with you guys is because not only can you use your understanding and awareness of all of those different needs to go and kind of go, okay, well, what's missing in my relationships, whether that's an intimate relationship, a friendship, a family relationship. If it's anything less than what you'd really love and what would just make your heart sing, then you need to look at which of these needs are being met and which kind of aren't, which just really aren't being met in this particular dynamic. And the key here is to acknowledge that you may have different relationships that meet different needs for you, right? And you may, or you may be really super lucky and you've got one particular person who can meet all of those needs really, really well for you. Key is don't want to expect other people to be constantly meeting all of our needs, but we also want to be able to ask and receive our needs being met from those external sources without this sense of being I'm needy, all right, and discounting what we actually need as a human being. Because if you discount for yourself, you simultaneously discount for all the other dynamics that are at play. So if you don't hold a high standard for your needs to be met in your relationships, it means that you have that same standard for meeting other people's needs in your relationships as well, okay? And also, a really key point here that I want to bring to our own personal relationships with ourselves is, and I've been doing this series for you guys in the Self-Connection in Isolation interview series, where I've been interviewing amazing human beings from across the globe doing extraordinary work. And the key here is, I actually made a realization just probably a week or two ago where I felt like, you know what, this is weird. I'd been by myself for 6 entire weeks, and I thought to myself, I actually do not miss anyone. And I thought to myself, I'm like, ugh, like, what does that mean? Like, am I completely disconnected to the point where I just don't even have a connection to these people, or is it a really good thing? And I took some time to really analyze that. And what I realized was I was meeting all of my own needs. I wasn't missing anybody. I wasn't longing to have any particular person in my life. Hey, hang on. I'd love to have them in, and it wasn't like I was avoiding people. We're kind of in this scenario where we're locking down, right? But I realized, and it was a really empowering realization, that I was meeting all my needs. Like, I wasn't reliant on anybody else externally to meet a need. And, and what I've realized is we oftentimes miss people because we're outsourcing our needs, right? Our needs being met. So, there might be a particular person out there who makes us feel like we're enough, right? Because we in ourselves, we don't feel like we're enough. So when that person's not with us, we miss them. Because what we're missing is our unmet need being fulfilled, right? So we can look at that and we can go, oh, okay, let's have a look at who are you missing during this lockdown right now? Who are the people who you're really, really missing to the point where you're like, oh, I hate this, right? And then what we can do is look at this, these 13 different universal needs and ask yourself, which of these needs do they meet for me that I'm not meeting for myself? Because if I was meeting that need for myself, I would discontinue the neediness of having to see that person because I miss them so much, because I'd realize they're just fulfilling an unmet need within myself. And how can I go about the journey of fulfilling that need for myself so that when I get to connect with that person, I'm not coming at it from a needy angle, like I need them to make me feel good enough, or whatever the unmet need is that they're fulfilling for you. And instead, you get to actually show up in that dynamic where you can meet on a more even playing field, where you're creating something new that didn't exist, rather than trying to fulfill a void that you should really be fulfilling for yourself. All right, so there's kind of a multitude of different angles you can take with these universal needs. Number one, don't feel like you shouldn't have needs in any of your relationships. Absolutely look at these universal needs and know that they are your pathway to depth of connection with other human beings. Them meeting needs for you and you meeting needs for them, right? But then we also want to look at, what is it that you're missing in another person? What needs are they fulfilling for you that you're not meeting for yourself? And when you're building awareness around what those unmet needs are, you can go about your own personal growth journey right now to fulfill that for yourself, right? So I don't know, I don't know why I jumped into the one. I think I'd said the need to be enough because it's so, I know all of these are universal, but when you look at the depth of fear and what drives the depth of our fear as human beings, it's this sense that we're not good enough in some way, shape, or form. And if we're not good enough, we won't be loved. So I view those as, maybe that's a bit of my bias as well, because they're very important to me. But at the end of the day, if you have that need of, you see that somebody else makes you feel loved or somebody else makes you feel like you're enough, so you're really missing them during this period of time being away from them, instead of just hanging out until you get to see them and then going and getting them to fulfill the void that you could be fulfilling for yourself, take this time right now to actually go, okay, how can I make myself feel enough just as I am? How can I be more loving towards myself? What is it that this other person does that makes me feel like I'm enough, that makes me feel loved? And how can I be doing some of those things just for myself? All right. And when you do that, I think you'll notice that you stop actually missing people. And what happens is there's a dropping away of the neediness around those dynamics, and what comes up is way more vibrant, which is this depth of connection where you're a whole fulfilled human being who is open to deeply connecting with somebody else, not from a place of I need to get something, but from a place where I want to give and create something more. All right, so really hoping that this sharing is of value to you guys. I definitely want to jump in the comment section and see who's been able to join me. Let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. If you've got any questions or comments or words of wisdom, you guys always know that I absolutely love getting to connect with you guys. So let me check it out. I've got Judy and Fur and Elf and Jean, awesome, and Lisa and Patty and Dennis and Victoria. Yay, awesome to see all of you guys. And Patty, if you fulfill your own needs, do you stop fulfilling it once you meet someone? Also, can the other person feel not needed if you fulfill your own needs? Oh my gosh, Patty, awesome, amazing questions. Love it when you guys have some questions to ask. Yeah, so let's look at it this way. And this is a really great question because a lot of us subconsciously keep ourselves from fulfilling our needs because we subconsciously believe that equals disconnection. If we're fulfilling on our own needs, we won't need anybody, they won't feel needed, and they won't want to be around me. All right. So, but what this actually is it's a transcendence to a new level of depth of connection with human beings. All right. So if you fulfill your own needs, you will not stop fulfilling those needs for yourself when you meet another person. All right. If you, so it's a muscle that you start building that it would just make no internal sense to stop doing unless you fall into a pit of not valuing yourself, right? And maybe that is if you do get into a relationship with somebody else, maybe if there's a dynamic that beats down on your self-esteem. But what I would say is there's a possibility, the possibilities are endless, but what I would say is that if you are a human being who is fulfilling on your own needs, you get out of this fearful place and you actually end up attracting people who are also your reciprocal, right? They're also fulfilling on their needs. You'll end up repelling people who are codependent and want you to fulfill their needs or want you to be a needy person so they can meet your needs and feel like they're of worth. You actually shift out of what we call the drama triangle, having the victim and the rescuer dynamic at play, where somebody's needs need to be met and they can't fulfill them for themselves, and somebody wants to feel good about themselves, so they come and rescue that person and want to meet all their needs and feel needed, right? You shift out of that dynamic completely and you shift to a new level of the empowerment dynamic. And from this place, you are showing others how to treat you and how to treat themselves, and you set a new standard. So you repel people, like I said, who are in that needier place, who won't feel needed if you're meeting your needs, right? That's not a healthy dynamic at play. What you want for the people that you care and love is them to have a phenomenal relationship with themselves where they don't need you, but they desire to have you in their lives, because together you can create something even more extraordinary than you could on your own, even if you are fully meeting of your own needs. All right, so it's an up leveling of your relationship dynamics, and once you start truly fulfilling on your own needs, you won't settle for anything less. The reason why we settle for people who don't meet our needs in relationship is because the standard is set on how we meet our or not meet our own needs. All right, so you will attract somebody who really mirrors back to you your own standard and fulfillment of your needs. Once you up level that, you're meeting all of your needs. You will never, ever, ever settle for anybody who's not going to meet you on that playing field and isn't meeting their own needs to that same capacity. All right, so brilliant question, Patty, and I really hope that my answer has served you. Really appreciate having you as always. And Edgar, always sending love from Chihuahua, Mexico. And I'm always sending love right back at you, Edgar, from Australia. Love it. And Jose is from Canada. Awesome to have you here. And Dennis, perfect. You are on point. Love that. Love that this is resonating with you, Dennis. And Oscar, thank you for sharing this information. You are so welcome, my friend. I'm grateful to have you live, and also love that you're finding value in this. And Victoria, taking advantage of this time, free of all my distractions, working on connecting to myself. Boom. I absolutely love hearing that, Victoria, and I'm really looking forward to catching up with you and our beautiful team in the Limitless Potential Academy coming up on the 23rd of May for you in the evening. So I hope you can join us, and I can't wait to hear about how you've been really up-leveling your connection to yourself, and really want to acknowledge and applaud you for taking the time to go within and connect with yourself. I did a brilliant interview with the beautiful Karen Smith yesterday. I hope you guys have had the time to check it out. If you haven't, it's up on my Facebook page a couple of posts ago. Check it out. It's amazing. And she really talks about this. She had this immense gratitude for this time where we're not go, 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 go right now. And we actually have this time to go, hang on a minute. Like, what's my normal usually, and how much of that normal do I want to continue having? Is it normal for me, and does it feel good for me to continue to be go, go, go? Or is this a time when I'm self-reflecting and reconnecting with myself so that I can now start to filter and be more discerning about what the normal is in my life? So I love that, Victoria. So good to see that and hear that. And Edgar, when you love yourself unconditionally, you will find that you're enough, and the only approval comes from you. You realize your relations are reflections from you. Absolutely, my friend. And, you know, easier said than done, but what a beautiful journey to go on for yourself and for everybody that you care about, and ultimately for humanity, if we go the real depths of it, is to get to a place where you love yourself for being just a human being. You know your inherent value just from being a human being. You know, there's no comparison to anybody else. There's no hierarchy of value. And you know that you are absolutely enough, and there's no conditions towards the love that you can provide for yourself. Absolutely. And when you do that, like you're saying, you know, you get to actually treat other people that way, right? So, you know, like you're saying there, Edgar, that you realize that your relations are a reflection from you. Absolutely. So, so true. And I love that you just made that comment. And Dennis, loving yourself, build others, love yourself, build others, being real takes the BS out of the relationship. Totally. You know, but we can only be, you know, real and truthful to the degree, you know, that we are being real and truthful within ourselves. All right. So however we want to show up in our relationship dynamics is really how we need to be within ourselves first and foremost. So absolutely. I'm a big believer in having your own BS meter, right? We tend to feel like we can pick up on other people's BS, but how about like pick up on your own? You know, I had an interesting experience when I did that 10-day silent meditation retreat where I was journaling each day, and I wasn't talking with anybody. I was at this retreat. All I could do was journal in between meditation and yoga, no speaking, any of that. And what I found was that I had so much time to reconnect with myself and turn off the external distractions that this other voice actually came into my sphere of consciousness. And what it was I wasn't going nuts, I don't think, but what was happening was I was writing, the me was writing, and then this kind of other watcher, I would call it, came in and it was like, hang on, what'd you write that for? That was complete BS. Who do you think's going to read this? Like, what are you trying to prove? And it was like, I had this real truth teller within me that I awoke up to. And since that point, it hasn't actually left me. I have I can't get away with anything, in terms of like just being able to see, if I'm out of integrity in some way. So I absolutely love that you've brought that to the conversation, Dennis. So appreciated, my friend. And Oscar, would you recommend doing belief work as part of fulfilling those needs? Yeah, I think that looking at our beliefs is really important. To be able to, what you believe is really just a thought that you run over and over again, right? You prioritize that way of thinking, and that becomes very ingrained. And it's oftentimes there are beliefs that can serve us, and there are beliefs that can limit us. But I like to have an open-minded curiosity that even my deepest seated beliefs are open to challenge. And that's a pretty scary place, because most of us identify with what our beliefs are. Our beliefs are who we are, right? Our identity. So to question them or have anybody else question them is to die, is to have our whole identity challenged. And if we lose attachment to those beliefs, oftentimes that can mean we lose ourselves. We just don't even know who we are. We're so uncertain about who we are, that we can't let go. But if you get to the other side, what you'll realize is who you really are is way beyond and below those beliefs. Right? Those beliefs are keeping you disconnected from the truth of who you are. So yes, I would say that each and every one of these 13 universal needs that I have expressed to you guys today, they've all got different beliefs and thought patterns around each and every one of them. Different emotions also come into play. So there's a lot of interconnectedness. And what we want to do is definitely look at and build awareness around what our beliefs are. You can use these universal needs to go, what's my belief around the need to feel safe, right? What's my belief around the need to be vulnerable? Right? What are my beliefs about vulnerability, right? And when we look at that, we can see how we prevent our own selves from being fulfilled human beings, right? If we have a belief around vulnerability that vulnerability is a weakness, we're not going to allow ourselves to have that need fulfilled, to be vulnerable, because we've got a belief that's saying, hey, don't be vulnerable, that's weakness, right? So I think it'd be very, very powerful to look at our beliefs, absolutely. And I do a lot of work around neuro-linguistic programming, so NLP. There's a whole communications model. You can Google that, NLP communications model. It'll give you a really good diagram about how the human mind and how we work as a system, and how beliefs is just one cog in the system. All right. And if you guys want to deep dive into that, it's one of the Limitless Potential Academy's masterclasses, where I immerse myself in amazing work from across the globe, from amazing human beings who've spent their lifetimes researching, developing, testing out, these different concepts and these different frameworks and systems. And I go and immerse myself in them. I experience them as the human guinea pig of personal development. I simplify, I systemize, and I create these masterclasses that allow you to apply it to your own lives without having to do to the full extreme of what I do in terms of paying for it, traveling around for it and immersing myself in all of it to come up with, the golden nuggets that you can apply to your life now in the comfort of your home. All right. So if you guys want to join me in the Limitless Potential Academy and get those sort of masterclasses, just DM me and I'll sort you out. All right, love that, Oscar. Hope that worked out. That was of value to you, how I answered that. And I appreciate the question. And Mag is here as well. And Patty, thank you for clarifying. It makes sense. Here's to me attracting that man. Boom. I love it, Patty. Absolutely. And remember, look at it this way. Who you are is what you attract, right? So if you're attracting a certain type of person, there's a dynamic at play. There's a polarity at play. We are attracting somebody based on who we're being. Now, I'm not saying that you attract yourself. Oftentimes you attract the opposite of yourself, right? Because that's what creates the attraction, opposites, like think about magnets. And if you're attracting unhealthy dynamics or the quality of person that you're not really wanting, then instead of just trying to find somebody who's just different, look at what that's pointing to within yourself, right? So I have tended to attract needy, sort of victimized people because of who I'd been being, which had been more of the rescuer and fulfilling my need of worth by being of value to other people, right? And I've run that pattern way too many times to not wake up at this point and go, hang on a minute, whom I being, and how am I not fulfilling my own needs so that I'm needy in the way of needing somebody to be in this victim state so that I can give to them and feel good about myself and feel like I'm of value, right? So look at how you're being based on what's being attracted to you as well. So love that, Patty, and good luck. And Fareen's here as well. Awesome. And Victoria, much love to you, beautiful. And Leica, hello to you. And Victoria, I can slip into codependency. I'm working on breaking that. I'm hoping meeting my own needs will prevent that. Absolutely, Victoria. And look at how you show up and are needy in relationship. We all have these patterns, right? I just explained one of mine that I'm personally working on, and I've been working very intensely on, and it's been a really empowering journey. So what I've shared with you guys today is just kind of a map so that you can have some language and some sort of pivotal needs that you can kind of bounce off and go, am I a bit needy here? Do I feel like that's the one that I'm like constantly trying to get from the external world? All right. And when you bring awareness, you simultaneously open yourself up for positive transformation. All right. Because then you look at, well, how do I meet that for myself? All right. So yeah, lots going on there. And Victoria, I love that. And Edgar, being authentic inspires others to do the same. Absolutely. And there's nothing more attractive than authenticity. I think it wakes all of us up to truth. It gives us permission, like you're saying, it inspires other people to do the same. Permission to be yourself by being yourself. Absolutely. And Victoria, do you recommend aligning with ourselves primarily and have strong boundaries of who and what we align with? You will naturally, when you raise the standard within yourself around being very clear on who you are, what you value, what's super important to you, what matters to you, and definitely what we're talking about today in terms of what our needs are, and you're meeting that for yourself. You have to become, if we're talking about relationship, the partner that you would want to have in your life. When you become what you most want in the external world, you drop out of neediness, out of codependency, out of reliance on the external, and you show up in a way where you're not trying to get something, you're actually able to co-create something magnificent that you couldn't have done either by yourself or from a place where you're just a needy person needing your needs met and you can't do it for yourself. So absolutely, it's key. And this is exactly why, when I first came into the work that I do now, back in 2013, that's actually when I started off as a relationship coach, because I know that, it's our relationships that are the greatest vehicle for our personal development and our depth of connection. And, there's so much value in having that depth of connection with another person. But what I ended up realizing through my time as a relationship coach was it just doesn't matter if you give people the best tools and tips and strategies on their relationships with another person if their own relationship isn't really sorted out within themselves, right? And that's why it's so important to know what your needs are and be able to meet them for yourself, right? And so that's why I've, gone the other direction. So it's from the inside out rather than the outside in, all right? So love that question, Victoria. Yes, thank you. Awesome. Glad that was of help. And Dennis, you are the sum of who you hang with. Seems like it all comes down to be real. I'm trying to rid myself of the bad and hang with the kind. I guess that's my real. I love it, Dennis. And yeah, it's a journey. You've got to be discerning, very discerning about who you spend your time with. But make sure that you don't discount. See, my concept of being real is being the whole spectrum of human emotion, right? The bad, the good, the ugly, the beautiful, like all of it. That's reality. To try and categorize ourselves or others as just being one way is actually what creates all our pain and suffering and disconnects us from the truth. The truth is you are all things. And when you own and accept and acknowledge that you are all of those things, you give yourself and others a real freedom. Sorry, I've got to get off. I forgot I'm on a coaching call right now. A real freedom to be all of who you are. So with that, I must sign off, guys. This was a little longer than I expected. As always, I'm sending you guys all of my love, light, blessings, gratitude, energy, enthusiasm, everything extraordinary coming to you to wherever you are in the world today. I really do hope that it's beautiful, amazing, and extraordinary, that you're doing something super empowering. Today's message definitely served you, and I want to thank each and every one of you guys for joining live. You are so appreciated. You are so loved, and I'll see you tomorrow.